Coming up next, join Dr. Sherman Blackwell with Singing River Services.
Hello, this is Sherman Blackwell, and welcome to this week's program presented by Singing River Services. Thank you so much for joining us today. And as I often do at the outstart of our programs, I want to remind you of the number that you see on the screen there. That number is available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Even though Singing River Services has a history of over 40 years in the community, we're an outpatient facility. However, we are present 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through the number you see on the screen. So that is available to you at 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the morning, 365 days a year. If you need to talk to a mental health professional, we'll get you connected and possibly have some inquiries about one of the 40 different programs that we have here at Singing River Services. We've got two first-time guests on the program today, and I'm excited to have them on the program today. Elizabeth Lewis is with us, and is it Jason Paul Jarreau. We're delighted to have both of you here today. They are affiliated with Oxford House, and it's quite frankly, it's something that I was not really aware of. And one of the goals of this program is to make people aware of all of the, not only the services that we have here at Singing River, but other services that are available in the community, because we certainly can't do it all, and want to get people connected to things that they may need, and of course certainly raise awareness. Here at Singing River, we have 3 umbrellas. We do IDD, individuals with developmental disabilities, and then the mental health side, and then of course the substance abuse, which, as you know, most of that, larger than 50% of that, is going to have a co-occurring mental health issue at some particular juncture. But ladies first, Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection with Oxford House.
I am an addict, and I went to long-term treatment. I was facing 3 years in prison or the option of long-term treatment. So of course I chose treatment. After 9 months I graduated, and my counselor wanted me to go to a sober living environment. So I interviewed at Oxford House. They instantly welcomed me. It's 80% vote. It was a home. You'd never think it's not a treatment facility. There's not a sign with neon flashing, you know, it's just a home. Beautiful neighborhoods. I instantly became the treasurer, an officer position within the house. And I dove into service work. I went to meetings. I have a sponsor. I work the steps, and I became very involved. Then I became a chapter secretary of our chapter, and then I was asked to open a house, a women's house in Tulsa, Oklahoma. From there, I moved to Oklahoma City as a part-time outreach worker. And then now I am in the state of Mississippi as a full-time outreach worker to open houses along the coast and throughout the state.
Okay, excellent. So let me digress a little bit. How did you hear about, how were you referred to Oxford House?
Through my counselor from the treatment facility that I went to.
Okay, so they were aware of that. And you were out of state. This was in Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And your position again is?
Outreach for the state of Mississippi.
Outreach for the state of Mississippi.
Yes,
Well, tell us a little bit about, I know there are some homes here on the coast, and where else in the state?
We have 2 in Jackson and 5 on the coast.
Okay, excellent. Good deal. Well, Jason, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, I'm Jason, and I'm also an addict. And my journey started in 2011 when my addiction took me to living on the streets and homeless in New Orleans. I got in some trouble, and I was facing 5 to 30 years in federal prison. And I went to treatment, family sent me to treatment, and I went home after treatment. They offered me sober living when I was in treatment, and I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to go home, back to the security of my family. And I realized real quick that even though I was in a safe environment, that my family didn't understand what I was going through in my head, you know, what I was dealing with in my addiction. I got a number to Oxford House, and I called, like I said, 2 weeks after, and I got accepted. when I moved in, they welcomed me like it was a family. You know, they told me, welcome home. And I realized real quick that my family really grew overnight. It wasn't just the home I was in. We had, I was in Baton Rouge, where we had 18 houses alone in Baton Rouge. We had over 60-something houses in Louisiana at that time. So my family grew real quick. And then I realized how the organization was really big, and we had over 1,600 homes at that time. And I got involved. You know, I got involved in the 12-step program. I started working steps. I got a sponsor, and I just kept doing the next right thing. And I got involved with the chapter. I was a chapter chair. We had 6 houses in our chapter. I got involved on a state level, state association treasurer. And then the outreach worker for Louisiana asked me what I kind of wanted to do, because I wasn't happy in my job. And I said, well, I want to do something recovery related, maybe even something what y'all do. And so she got me involved, and then I put in an application and got accepted here in Mississippi to develop the state.
Great, great. If either of you or both of you can respond, Oxford House, its inception, its concept.
Sure.
How does
it actually started in October of 1975 out of Silver Springs, Maryland, and it grew from some individuals that were in recovery in a county-run state home. And they got news that the state home was going to be closing due to funding. So some people in the rooms of a 12-step program mentioned to them, why don't you just open one of your own? And so the guys got together, and they got up some funds, and I think it was about $1,200 at the time, which was a lot of money back then. And they rented the home. And then they started putting money aside. And at that time, that particular home for the county, you could only stay 6 months. So at the end of 6 months, you had to move out for someone else to move in.
Okay.
And so they had seen a lot of people go out, and within the first month, like within a month, they returned to the use of drugs or alcohol. So the inception started that you can stay as long as you wanted to.
Okay.
And that's the joy about it.
Makes a lot of difference. Anybody involved with substance abuse and issues understand that concept. I mean, do you agree or disagree? Some people say it's a particular treatment. Some people say it's when that person gets ready to have that. And of course, it would be, you know, known folks, and you have too, that have been in and out of treatment. And what seems to be the pivotal point for both of you that said, what happened? Is it a culmination of things that Elizabeth said, you know, this month I'm going to be 4 years, I'm not going back? What happened?
Do you want to go ahead and answer?
Well, you go ahead.
I had to go to treatment, like I said. I wasn't ready, but I was facing prison. My disease was so strong that I still brought drugs into the facility, and I had an incident happen there where I had to go back to jail, facing prison. And that's when I realized that I was completely powerless. You know, I still couldn't stop, even given the opportunity to go to treatment. And that's when I realized something needed to change.
And that was your higher power?
Oh, yes. I didn't know it then, but that's when I completely surrendered, and I asked for help. I said, if I'm ready to go to prison, if I need to go to prison, then that's what I need to do. That was my spiritual awakening. I was able to go back to treatment and complete that. But that's when I realized I was completely out of control. I was hopeless, helpless, and I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. And from there, I humbled myself, and I was willing to be somewhat open-minded to take suggestions and start doing other things that other people recommended that I do other than myself, because myself gets me in jail.
Yeah.
When my disease is out there. So.
Yeah. Jason, you said a while ago, you referenced, I kept doing the right thing, the next right thing. Tell us about
just like Elizabeth just said, you know, my actions and my thoughts landed me to where I was, you know, getting in trouble with DEA and looking at federal prison. And, you know, when they told me in treatment that my best thinking got me there. So I did just what everyone tells you, take some different suggestions, try things differently. So I just kept doing what I thought was the next right thing, and what other people told me to do, because I knew my thinking and the way my actions were probably wasn't the best.
Right. Well, it's a very interesting journey. Addiction is a unique, elusive thing, and as I mentioned at the top of the show, many times there are, with that, co-occurring personality issues and all along those. And people say, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And it's really, one exacerbates the other many times. And we've all heard that people, 50% of the individuals that we see on the mental health side are going to decompensate at some point in time. A lot of that, many of those individuals are going to self-medicate. They're going to do that because of that process. I do believe, though, what we're talking about here today is a freestanding, situation. You don't have to be mentally ill to be an addict. I understand that, and vice versa, but it's important. It's just an elusive process. So I begin to see the insight. I used to say you don't have to be hit by a truck to know that that's bad for you.
Right.
But just that. And when I was talking about people, you don't have to be an addict to be able to understand. However, I do think there are special insights that someone who has driven that bus, not necessarily hit by it, but has driven that bus, does make a difference. But what is important is that the change occurs. That's the main process, that the change occurs. My guest today is Jason Jarreau and Elizabeth Lewis, who are here from the Oxford House, and we're going to visit with them in the second half of the program. But as we always do, we want to remind you of the number that you see on the screen there, and of course that number is available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We are here at the outset of a new year. We talked on last week's program about some things that can happen positively for many people at this time of the year. It's a real letdown because of the high things that were happening during the holiday season. And so we just want you to know that we are here for you, and if you would like information about one of the 40 different programs that we have here at Singing River Services, we'll be glad to get you that free of charge. Also, we're excited about what's coming up in the next few weeks and months, and of course we're headed into our symposium that we're beginning to plan for. I know that's not until May. Of course, May is Mental Health Month. But we continue to want to raise awareness and reduce the stigma surrounding mental health and mental health issues. And so that's why we bring you this program today. And so we've got a lot of good things that are coming up on the calendar. We've got a lot of great guests, no exception of those that are here today. They are wonderful guests, and we're looking forward to the second half of this program. We're going to come back and talk more with Jason and with Elizabeth about the Oxford House right after these messages.
You're watching Singing River Services with Dr. Sherman Blackwell. We'll be right back.
Other Chevy dealers may say they give you more, but Butch Osterlet Chevy gives you the most. $11,000 off the all-new 2014 Chevy Silverado. $6,000 off every new Malibu. You will pay less at Butch Osterlet Chevrolet Cadillac in Pascagoula.
Hello, this is Sherman Blackwell, and welcome back to the second half of today's program. Thank you so much for joining us today. My special guests are Jason Jarreau and, of course, Elizabeth Lewis is here, and they're here from the Oxford House. And first half of the program, if you were privileged to join us, they talked about their journey and here and some of their, it takes a lot to be transparent, but you have to be honest, and honesty has to start with yourself, doesn't it, to do that. All right, for either of you, tell us a little bit about what happens at the Oxford House. What is the day-to-day routine?
Okay. Well, the day-to-day routine is just like any other day at any normal family home. There are no bosses, or there's no houseman, there's nobody in charge. We have a saying that we kind of use: the inmates run the asylum, so to say. You know, it's just like living with 7 other roommates that are going through the same thing you're going through early in recovery. You know, we do have rules and guidelines that we do have to follow. We have chores that we have to do to help upkeep the house. One way the house actually functions is through our weekly house meeting. You know, that's where we sit down and we talk about the finances of the house, because the rent that we pay each week is what in turn pays the bills of the house.
Right, okay.
We have 5 different positions in the house. We have a president, a secretary, a comptroller, a chore coordinator, as well as a president, secretary, comptroller, chore coordinator. President, secretary, comptroller, chore coordinator.
And housing services.
And housing services.
Out of, I mean, you're talking about 6 or 7 people, so 5 of them have.
5 of them have positions, but everyone has a voice in the house.
Right.
It's a democratic process. So, but the president calls the weekly meeting, calls it to order. The secretary writes all the minutes down in the house. The treasurer balances the checkbook, gets the bills, pays those, makes the deposits. The comptroller collects the rent from everyone and records that. And the chore coordinator divvies up the chores and holds us responsible for doing our chores.
Okay, okay. And then I guess the external meetings that you have to make. And
during your first 30 days of living in a house, we do require you to attend 5 12-step meetings of some sort. So you're required to attend those. You're required to have, work some type of program of recovery. It's been my experience for me. My program of recovery is one reason I'm still clean and sober today. So the accountability of people holding me to that is the reason.
Structure.
Exactly.
Can go a long way, can't it?
Without someone standing over you telling you what to do every single minute of the day.
Sure, exactly. Of course, part of our substance abuse program is a little different than that, of course, on the treatment modality side. But yeah, when you have structure and you have the impetus you're motivated to do that, it's okay, I guess, to say, this is what I don't want, and this is where and this is how I'm not going to get there. So tell us, Elizabeth, how long have you been in Mississippi, and where are these, and is there a number that someone can call if they want to get connected to the Oxford House?
Definitely.
Okay.
We have 5 on the coast. We have a men's house in Gulfport. We have 3 houses in Biloxi, 1 female, 2 male, and then another men's house in Ocean Springs. The rent basically is across the board, except the one in Gulfport, that's $110 a week, but it's $125 a week, $150 non-refundable move-in fee. We have a website, www.oxfordhouse.org. Any of the houses, pictures, vacancies, you can check on there to see the phone numbers. Also, we have brochures that we hand out, and all of our numbers of the houses or myself or Jason's is on the website as well.
Great. What is the screening process?
Well, it is an interview process, and basically the interview process is just simply to get to know that individual. 7 personalities living in the house. We want to make sure they're going to be a right fit. Basically, we just ask them, if they know their triggers, if there are any type of relationship that may be detrimental to the house, their willingness. When you ask people certain questions and put them in situations, 6 different personalities or 5 different personalities, they're going to get different perceptions.
Right.
And so seeing that willingness is one of the main things we look for. Making sure they realize their triggers, they've noted those, so that hopefully they can prevent that in the future, and then give that person an opportunity to ask us and the members of the house questions. They're on the interview as well, and they're interviewing us if they want to live with us.
Okay, and then there's how's the decision made?
Well, a lot of times if they're in treatment, we can do a phone interview. So they can call and set up a phone interview. We pass the phone around with the members in the house. We'll put them on mute and we'll talk about it, amongst ourselves. If someone's in person, we usually have them go outside and we talk about it as a house. Okay. So decisions are made pretty quickly.
Okay.
We want to make sure that they're going to a safe, stable environment right after treatment, or coming right in off the street.
That is so critical. It is critical.
Very.
I mean, that can't be overstated. People being treated, achieving some sense of sobriety or clean, and and know where to go, and going back. And so, you know, life is pejorative, in my opinion. Left to itself, it will reduce. And so hence you're talking about structure, and you're talking about those kinds of things. Now, how long can they stay?
That's a great question. The best thing about Oxford House is that you can stay as long as you want until you're comfortable enough in sobriety to get back out on your own. So there is no time frame. I personally know of some individuals back home that have been there for almost 3.5 years.
Wow.
You know.
But it's working.
It is. It is working. And that's the great thing about it, is it being a democratic process. You know, some houses have different, a little different structure than other houses. You know, so it's tailored to fit those houses' needs. We have three rules that are our main rules for the charters that are issued from Oxford Incorporated, which is the house has to be democratically run on a democratic basis. The houses have to be financially self-supporting, and they also have to expel anyone that returns to the use of drugs or alcohol. As long as the house is run on those three main charter rules, then you know, it's going to succeed. Okay. That was my, you know, of course the flip side of that is, you know, everybody's not going to stay clean. That's correct.
And so
it's unfortunate.
And how, and I guess that can be touchy and a little hairy sometimes, huh? With maybe not.
Well, you come in knowing like you have 15 minutes to leave the house, and that's to protect the safety of the home, and that's because it could trigger other residents, and we'll lose our charter. So if you use, and we have UAs on site, and we have breathalyzers, and we go off behaviors. So that's why you got to really watch yourself in your actions. And everything again is a vote. We can UA at any time. Anybody can drug test anybody at the house, and if you are dirty, you have 15 minutes to leave, and that's to protect us.
I got you. Okay.
Now, the good thing about Oxford House is you can re-interview after you show some willingness. Usually we say 30 days to go back to the same house.
Okay.
And we need to see some behaviors showing that you are ready to
I like
change.
that. I like that.
I'm a chronic relapser. 9 inpatient treatment centers. I'm in and out of jails. I needed that second chance.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a, and wherever that magic threshold is, and it's you know, it's different for each one. You can't superimpose, I think, anything and say, well, here's the model and this is it, and make it fit. It just doesn't work that way. And so that's one of the great things I see about, and seems to, and I'm a novice with the understanding of Oxford House, but the concept is certainly great. You know, self-supporting kind of thing. It's interesting. Now, y'all, that's go to Amy Turner was our director at the Stevens Center, and what would y'all do over there?
Basically what we do on a monthly rotation is go with some of the residents. We show a 10-minute DVD about Oxford House, which you can get on our website. And it just explains about Oxford House. And then the residents, including myself or the outreach that go, explains kind of what happened, what Oxford has done for them, and then we do questions and answers. And it's basically just to get the word out and to let people know that there is a safe place to go after treatment. And one other thing I do want to say is you don't have to come from treatment. We've had people off the street from meetings, under a bridge, literally. Anybody with the desire, to be clean and willing to follow our simple guidelines are accepted.
That's great. That's great. That's great. Of course, we would be a proponent of treatment, but treatment's not, you know, I'm trying to think of Dick Van Dyke or somebody said he got up one morning and said, I'm just not going to do this anymore. Or I forget, it was a catchy phrase and something like that. So I do believe that people can just, you know, you come to yourself, so to speak, and do, that's a great that y'all do that and continue to do that and let folks know, because we have in our substance abuse program a 30-day residential program, then we have an aftercare, I think up to 2 years, you know, in and out and doing that. And so but basically, the Oxford House is someone who is willing, the three things that you mentioned there, and while they would be encouraged to continue to do 12 steps or follow along, that kind of thing, but be amongst your kindred, so to speak, huh?
That's exactly it. It gives you an opportunity to get involved. You know, it gives you the encouragement to get involved in your recovery and the recovery community. You know, we here in Mississippi, we have 7 houses so far. We formed what's called a chapter. So that chapter meets each month with all the houses, and we talk about what's going on in each house. We try to get involvement in the community. We also have yearly a world convention that all the houses from across the world, because we're in 5 different countries, get together. And we do fundraisers to raise funds to send residents too, to meet those other individuals across.
That is so great. The concept is great because everyone knows while you're in treatment, you can say the right things. You can, you can do the right things. 9 times. I mean, you can do. You know, I've seen people, and I can't wait because when I get out of here, I'm on. And they'll just tell it in group. I'm just doing this because the judge got me here to come, and that's somewhat of an oxymoron in my estimation. However, it does work on occasion, but it fundamentally comes back to the individual who has to say, this far and no further. So once again, give the address or the email where they can find out about Oxford House.
www.oxfordhouse.org.
That is excellent. Great. Our guests have been Elizabeth Lewis and Jason Jarreau from the Oxford House. And if you would like more information about the Oxford House, which it sounds just like a great program, and obviously worldwide program, and now strengthening in our community, and we certainly want to let you know that anything that Singing River Services can do, we'll be glad to help any way that we can. Because we think the concept is great. And we're going to have y'all back on the program as time goes on. And give us some updates on, got 7 houses in Mississippi. Is there a goal?
There is a goal.
Okay.
To have as many as we can.
As many as can.
Available to anybody that needs it.
Good deal. Great. So if you'd like more information about the Oxford House, you can call the number that you see on the screen there, and we'll get you connected to them. Right. Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
This is Sherman Blackwell. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to look forward to seeing you next week with another special guest.
For more information about Singing River Services and the issues discussed today, please call 228-497-0690. We look forward to hearing from you, and thank you for watching today's program.